Hello and welcome inside the Parc Fermé for podcast number 704. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not that.
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to be talking about planning, gravel, quandary, and commitment. I know, it's like a day in my life, folks. It's crazy. Anyway, before covering any of the news of Formula One this week, I have to introduce my guest tonight, which of course means I got to go to the right coast of America, nestled in our nation's capital. You know her, you love her. It's the lovely, the redoubtable Grace. Grace, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, It's podcast number 704. I'm just going to say right up front, Grace, I am a little bummed on, because for my friend, my dear friend.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles.
Oh, yes. That could have gone so many. I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah.
Tough weekend for the number 23 Harder Racing Aston Martin at the Petit Le Mans. I love that race. I've been to that race several times and love that track, love Braselton. It's just, it's unfortunate. They didn't, anyway, I won't go into the detail. We'll wait and have Paul come on and give you a professional summation because
that's much more fun too, right?
It is much more fun to hear.
Tell us about how terrible your weekend was.
And Paul will go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us, Paul, how'd the weekend go? Relive that. Let me pick that scab, shall we?
Just as soon as it started to heal over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why not? That's the way we roll.
Exactly.
But anyway, kind of bummed about that. But anyway, they will recover and bounce back, I am sure. But there is some Formula One news. What are you drinking tonight? What are you imbibing? I saw you had a glass of wine.
I was going to say, I have a glass of wine every podcast.
I know you do.
Right? Like,
and,
that's not.
And sometimes I ask and sometimes I forget. And
so it's actually, Behringer's, which is a well-known California sort of, they have 4 children, 3 children. I don't know. They have a couple children, right? So the parents own that vineyard and each of the kids own like offshoots. So one of the offshoots is Imagery, which their daughter owns. Courtney, I don't remember her first name. Anyway, it's the daughter that owns it, but it's their like experimental varietals as opposed to like Merlots or, Cab Franc, kind of traditional California wine. So anyway, this is their Barbera, which I enjoy. But it's also a more reasonable price point, right? It's like $25 a bottle, $30 a bottle, as opposed to like $65 a bottle or $80 a bottle.
Right.
So it's kind of a nice balance to some of the other wine club we belong to, which is more of a traditional wine club. So a little more expensive. Right. So this is nice to have more like, this is just an evening. We're just having pasta. Let's, have a $25 bottle of wine as opposed to a $65 bottle of wine.
Right. That makes
which is still a high price point, I guess. But
sure.
It's California wine, so you kind of get.
Right. That makes sense. Well, I'm enjoying a freshly squeezed. Now I know it's a 2020.
Nice.
It's a freshly squeezed H2O.
Nice.
Well, and this kind.
I have some of that too, but that's
right. This isn't a blend.
No, it's just it's from my Brita,
Yeah, right. And it's busy but never precocious. And,
that's right.
Yeah, I like it.
So
good.
Yeah.
Good.
So anyway, so that's what we're drinking this evening. And
sounds good. Paul's probably drinking beer from a green bottle.
Gosh.
Why wouldn't he at this point?
Oh, because he still has taste. They may not have won, but it didn't take his tongue,
Right. They didn't take his pride, damn it.
Right. I mean.
Oh my! Hey, big shout out to our friend Jeff Westfall. If you're a longtime listener to the podcast, you'll if you're a really longtime listener to the podcast, you'll remember I had Jeff on several times, sitting in for Paul. You'll remember that Jeff was one of the trainers at the Audi Sports Car Experience that I went out, that Paul had me go out and do. And I rode with Jeff, and he was sort of the trainer for the class we were in. Super good guy, big Ferrari Challenge, works with a lot of the Ferrari Challenge drivers, a lot of the gentleman racers, races in Continental. He's a champ there. Anyway, he won GTD class, which is the same class Paul is, his team, Ian's team is in. But Jeff and the Ferrari, the WeatherTech Ferrari, 63, number 63 won. So congratulations to Jeff. He's a super good guy and a super good race car driver. And so the fact that he was the guy they chose to do the closing stint says a lot about Jeff and his job this weekend. So great job, Jeff.
Maybe you should ask Paul about how Jeff's race went.
Yeah, that would be better. Maybe I should say, hey, Paul, tell us about Jeff's race.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, that would be good. Oh boy, so we got some Formula One news that came out of this week. Now I know we're heading to the race in Portugal. We'll get into that next weekend, but there's a little bit of news, and this continues on in the news about the whole Red Bull and the engine. So, it's time to play. That's right. It's let's make a deal for a new engine if the price is right. Christian Horner, come on down.
Or the FIA makes you take Renault. Congratulations.
Congratulations. You're the next contestant on Renault customer engines. Oh, boy.
Right. All right.
So, all right. So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when this news broke that Honda was leaving the series as an engine manufacturer. We talked about it. We said, okay, well, what is the lowest, least common denominator here? Least common denominator would be that Renault is signatory to the FIA. They are obligated, as the team supplying the least amount of other customer teams' engines, they are obligated to provide an engine for Red Bull. So in that sense, technically, I kind of feel like Red Bull has a bird in the hand. All right. So they know they have that option. Potentially, they got to iron out a lot of the consternation between Cyril and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
However, certainly in the F1 press, there was certainly a lot of conjecture, and I'm not saying it's conjecture, that's the wrong word.
It's their job.
But that is what they were doing. It's not unfounded. They were saying, hey, look, if Honda's going to get out, maybe it makes more sense for Red Bull just to acquire Honda's engine program and their intellectual property around this engine and just own it themselves, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, my initial reaction to that was, I can totally understand why people would say that.
Sure.
But my thinking was, it's one thing to buy the existing intellectual property and stock and engines and machinery to make them. It's a different thing to have the resources committed to developing that engine over time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Helmut Marko talked about this past week. And I'm going to read you a quote from Helmut Marko, Marko Helmut.
Love it.
And that's an old Grayson Todd joke, by the way. That goes back to the old Rankin and Bass Burgermeister Meisterburger, right?
Right.
So anyway, here is what Helmut had to say. He said, quote, we would favor, provided the talks with Honda are positive, that we take over the IP rights and everything that is necessary to then prepare and deploy the engines ourselves in Milton Keynes. But this is only possible on condition that the engines are frozen by the first race in 2022 at the latest. We cannot afford further development, neither technically nor financially. That is a prerequisite. And I got this from Auto Sport. And that's what he said. And let's see, is anything else? Oh, he said all engine manufacturers have their own team, and that means they develop the engine around their chassis.
Right.
We would get something where we would have to adapt our chassis and our ideas secondary, and we would be confronted with a technical solution that we would have to accept. This is talking about, I think, the development. Let me read this because I've confused the heck out of myself. That's not that.
It's only the first story.
That's the first story. I'm completely lost. Marco said this approach would allow Red Bull to continue developing its car around its current engine. Yes, that's what he's talking.
Yes.
He says all the engine manufacturers have their own team, and that means that they can develop the engine around their own chassis. We would get something where we would have to adapt around their chassis. We would get something where we would have to adapt our chassis and our ideas secondary, and we would be confronted with a technical solution that we would have to accept. That's why the Honda solution is our favorite. Nevertheless, we are exploring all possibilities. According to the FIA regulations, every engine manufacturer has committed itself to supplying other teams. If something like this has to be a possibility for us, then it must fit in the overall situation, and it must make us competitive. A happy forced marriage is not an issue for us.
There you go. A
little dog whistling there about if we've got to saddle up with Renault again.
It's all right.
Yeah. What do you make of that? That's kind of interesting. He's saying a happy forced marriage is not an issue. He's saying
it's reality. What else are they going to do?
Right. Being forced to take on the Renault is fine as long as both teams are happy with that relationship. Then that's a happy marriage, whether forced or not. What he's saying is he's not prepared to get into the battle of wits and all that that they had with Renault and Cyril in the past. That they're not up for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just give me the crate and with the engine, and we'll move on.
Right. So the issue for me, Grace, and I said this when the first sort of conversation about them acquiring the Honda program. I mean, I'm all for it, but as much money as Red Bull puts into Formula One, I don't know that they're prepared to put in the kind of engine development to develop this engine further. And they're saying no. They would pick up the Honda engine program if all the engines are frozen, so nobody's going to develop them because they can't afford to do that. They're not a car maker. Right?
Exactly. Right. So, because everybody's going to show up at race 5 with something new, and they can't do any of that. Right. So. Right.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me. I have to think that the only way it makes sense is if Red Bull merely pay for creating the existing engine and the production facility and the IP of Honda, because if they have the resources, if they had to resource the engine development over time, it would be very expensive for a group that isn't a road car manufacturer. It's also an interesting situation given that Red Bull would do this only if the FIA guarantee the engine freeze in 2022. And I'm very intrigued to see if other manufacturers will go for that. So think about, if you will.
I wouldn't now.
I know, yeah, and think about it. If you're Ferrari, hell no, you wouldn't do it.
Whatever.
Right? Why would Ferrari say, "Oh yeah, go ahead and freeze the engines"? Because right now they're sucking air. Right. So Ferrari would be the last group that would say, "Yeah, that makes sense that Red Bull, they don't have the money to develop the engine, so let's go ahead and freeze the engines in 2022 and just lock us in." To our horrible performance.
Let's change the engines we're using next week. Why wait?
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah. For Ferrari standpoint, it's like, oh no. We're going to continue to develop the hell out of this thing.
Right.
Because we have to.
Week. Right.
Right now we're battling with Williams at the back. We have to do something. Right.
Right.
So I can't imagine that.
I can't either, but they don't have the infrastructure to do that, right?
No.
Like, they're not a car manufacturer. It's not something they've done before. So I don't even know how you would. I don't even know if Red Bull was like stuck in this position and they had to take that Honda engine and do something with it. I don't even know how you'd go about doing that. That can't be.
I don't know. Here's my thinking about this. Mercedes immediately dismissed the concept of supplying Red Bull. I understand that. I'm still thinking that working with Renault is a better choice until the new engine regulations come out, and then they can weigh what their options are. Then maybe it isn't easy working with them, but I think Renault, let me put it this way. I don't want to overplay this because I don't know this for a fact, but I have to think that Renault kind of would like to have Red Bull as much as Red Bull might like to have a Renault engine supply. The reason being is there's only 4 cars running two cars running Renault engines. if they bring on Red Bull, they'll have
That's
6.
great. Right.
So they'll have 6 cars pounding out mileage, pounding
Mhm.
out development ideas, pounding out data and metrics that
And a
Renault.
team that's successful doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And a team that Renault knows, even contrary to their own works team,
Right.
they know Renault that the Red Bull team isn't suffering from a crappy chassis.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so what better way to say, hey, we know that Newey chassis is sorted.
Yeah.
So our engine in that car is a good, measurement tool,
Right.
right? So, and I'm not taking the piss at the engineers at Renault. Of course, they got a great car too, and it's developing, it's coming along.
Right.
And
But
with Fred there, Fernando next year, it'll be great. But all that being said, I still think for Red Bull to buy the capacity to go ahead and continue building engines and not developing them, Red Bull is not an engine maker. Why
Right.
would they want to be?
they've never done that. So why would
Yeah,
they start?
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's just a,
Yeah. And so we're in agreement. We think they ought to just pony up with Renault.
yeah.
Yeah,
Send them the
I
crate.
do too.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
and if
And
they
I
happen to leave like a technical manual in there, sure, that would be great too.
Yeah, and I understand his point. He's saying that engine's developed around Renault's chassis.
Of course, you'd always rather be in
yeah.
Mercedes' position, you'd rather always be able to make the engine work with your chassis instead of the other way around, but
Yeah,
here you
I
are.
get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I don't know. If they weren't so bullheaded about the relationship, and that goes for Cyril or Christian,
Yeah.
it just seems like to me that they could align and take the fight to Mercedes more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like, here's the thing. If you've got 2 teams, you've got Red Bull using a Renault engine and Renault using a Renault engine, there's got to be a way that they can get the cannons facing outward instead of at each other.
Right.
You know?
Although I was going to say too, it's Renault. I'm sure that like if the big sticking point was Cyril, Renault would be like, well, that guy, we never talked to him. He's out.
Right. Right.
Find somebody else, right? But you're right. They could be, tracing point in Mercedes instead of, Ferrari and Mercedes or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
they could share more, be more of a force together than quite so separate.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they end up deciding. I might, if I had to put a hunch, I would say they'll end up with Renaults, but maybe the egos and pride will prevent that. I don't know.
Again,
I just don't see Ferrari or Mercedes or even Renault rubber stamping the development freeze for Red Bull. I don't see that happening.
I think that's the one thing I agree with, and then everything else kind of falls into place under that.
Right. So anyway, watch this space because it'll be interesting.
There you go. You heard it here
I think
first.
they'll go with Renault, but we'll find out.
Right.
Also, this past week, Mercedes is committed to F1. Now, Mercedes is CEO, newish CEO, and I'm an American, so I'm going to butcher this name because of all the things we do in this world. That's one of the things Americans are really good at is butchering names.
Mm.
I'm going to say it's Ola Kalanius, which is the new CEO of Mercedes.
Okay.
Here's what he had to say about Formula One, quote, "We have as little reason to step out of Formula One as Bayern Munich has to step out of football." And I'm talking about the boys from München.
Right.
The net financial impact will be halved in the next 3 years. We have an even more aggressive cost reduction target in Formula One than for the rest of the company. This entire notion of cost reduction and how Mercedes will face this new austerity mode F1 is heading toward is going to be actually very interesting for me because they're fully focused on the carbon emission reduction efforts and how F1's new cost cap will impact the technology evolution to achieve that versus seeking more affordable and possibly traditional methods. That remains to be seen, right? I don't know how they're going to do that or what the justification for that is. But with no hints as to what the next engine formula would be.
Electric. Mm-hmm.
You think? Is that what you're going with?
I don't know. Paul went with hydrogen. That was the only other option we had. Hydrogen.
Yes, electric.
All right.
Yeah. So
I wonder.
I was trying to be, polite. I was saying with no hints as to what the next engine formula would be. One has to consider Mercedes keen to continue in F1 if alternate like synthetic fuels and other technology is the path that the series will choose. My point on this is Mercedes and how they're going to, so let's just, for lack of a better term, Formula One's heading to this cost reduction,
Right.
this austerity mode, right?
Sure.
How Mercedes is going to fare in that situation will be very interesting. Now, I know the engine development is outside of that cost cap, but I still think a lot has to do with keeping them appeased. Certainly they didn't with Honda, they're gone. So I'm also intrigued, but the notion of moving their F1 effort towards more focused marketing effort around AMG is also interesting. And what do you make of this, Grace? So you have Racing Point becoming Aston Martin.
Right.
Now, that's understandable because Lawrence, bought a significant portion of Aston Martin. Fair enough. But Renault next year becoming Alpine and really highlighting their Alpine brand performance.
Which I always see as Alpine, and it's still going to look like Alpine. And
right.
I'm just warning you all now. Please don't email me that it's not Alpine. I'm sure it looks like Alpine.
Put like an accent or something to remind me. Otherwise, say it right. It's Alpine.
Umlauts, Alpine, right? We just got over AlphaTauri, and finally we've all just called it AlphaTauri, and let's move on with our lives. And now we have Alpine. Come on, people.
Alpine. It's kind of like when Allianz, your global partner in asset management. It's like Alliance. What is that? I don't know what that is.
I don't know, but at least there was in a commercial that they showed every 5 minutes, so then at least I knew how to pronounce that word.
Yeah,
I like Alliance.
It's Alliance. And then the first commercial was Allianz, your global leader in asset management. I was like, it's Allianz. Got it.
Got it.
All right. It's like Scepter. What the heck is Scepter? I don't know what that is.
Adidas. I'm ready.
Adidas. All right. So anyway, where was it? So their move to the AMG brand is interesting. AMG is Merck's performance brand, and that makes sense. But Merck's move does echo sort of Renault's move to a change to Alpine, Toro Rosso's move, not necessarily to a performance brand, but it is changing to their whole clothing line, which is kind of different. So, all right. So we're racing cars and Red Bull's the energy drink that's paying for all this stuff. So what are we going to promote? Let's promote our leather jackets for $1,000 a copy. Good idea.
I will say, I'm always looking for the perfect birthday / any holiday I find for your, collection. And I was like, it gets to the point, everybody's already starting their holiday shopping season. I was like, I wonder if AlphaTauri you will never receive anything from me from AlphaTauri.
I know.
Cow. Like we used to make fun of the Formula One shop under Bernie Eccleston and the $80 key fob, right? Being the cheapest thing that they had on their website. Yeah, that's how that stuff is. I was like, holy cow. Who buys this stuff? I don't know.
I don't know, man. That AlphaTauri stuff is expensive, man.
Yeah. No kidding.
So anyway, you've got these. What's interesting for me is that these teams. It's one thing for AlphaTauri to change their name because Red Bull is already doing the branding for Red Bull. So AlphaTauri does the branding for their clothing line and their accessories and stuff like that. It makes sense to me. Aston Martin changing Racing Point makes sense to me. It is interesting to me that Renault moves to Alpine, Mercedes moving more to AMG, and really taking the marketing opportunity for the next few years to really big up those performance brands, which there's nothing wrong with it. It makes sense to me because Formula One is, the pinnacle of motorsport. Right. Why not big up AMG, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's
some overlap in that fan base, right?
Yeah, right. Right, because there's Mercedes. The funny thing is, and I won't name names, but so it is interesting. If I got to be careful here, I'm going to get in trouble, Grace. So I every year was doing these season previews, right? And we would have you know, over, like 100 people or so at these, and from all walks of life, but they're all F1 fans. And they were here locally in St. Louis. All right. So then I was the chairman of the board of the St. Louis European Auto Show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of that, because that board, I served with some great people on that board. And together, in the time that I was on the board, we raised over like $500,000 for charity. And it's
Wow.
all European cars, like Ferraris and Lambos and, all that. It's only European cars, right? Sports cars. And it's over 30 years now. It's been doing it, and well over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great event. But it's interesting in that, being the F1 dork that I am,
right,
you get to know all these Ferrari owners, local Ferrari owners, right? And they'll own like multiple Ferraris, right?
Well, yeah.
So there's like, captains of industry here. And so then they'll, but it was interesting. One time I was talking to a guy who was in the auto clubs, several of them, and I was saying, well, this would be great. We got now that Mercedes is back in the sport, and you'll get all these Mercedes. He goes, oh, no, these Mercedes owners won't know a damn thing about Formula One. I said, they won't? And he goes, oh, no, they don't. I said, well, don't they all, follow Formula? He goes, no, they just follow the AMG brand. Is that an AMG black? Is that an AMG black? That's what I got, And he said, no, they don't follow any of that crap. And I thought, well, that's weird that they don't, because if I was a Mercedes owner, I'd be following Mercedes very closely, right? And then I thought, well, thankfully, there's a whole bunch of Ferrari. He goes, yeah, they won't follow Ferrari either. And by and large, he was kind of right, because I met several of them, and they're like, yeah, you got to be excited about Lewis Hamilton. They're like, who?
Right.
It's like, Lewis?
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not. So
I mean, I guess because Ferrari, right? Like, it's the ethos, right? That's a very
it is. Thing. You would think. Yeah, you would think. And even the Ferrari owners, some of them are totally into it. They're totally F1 nuts. But the others, not so much. They're really just Ferrari car fans. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But I could kind of see why Mercedes is saying, wait a minute, we have a lot of AMG customers out there, and we need to drive the correlation between our success in Formula One and the AMG brand. And to me, that makes sense.
I agree.
I don't know so much about Renault Alpine, because we don't have Renault here or Alpine. So I can't speak intelligently to...
We haven't had the Le Car since, what, the 80s? I don't
The Le Car.
Le Car, yes.
Yes. And that's because Ford did such a good job on the tempo. We didn't need it.
No, that's right.
So... so anyway, if you are a listener and you live in Renault country, let us know about the Alpine. I can speak more to the AMG brand and Ferrari brand in the States anyway than I can Alpine or Renault.
And I wonder if it helps to, because we don't really have Renaults in this country.
Right.
So, I think of like the Clio. I think of like tiny little. Yeah. Compact cars. I certainly don't think of like Ferrari, that you don't think of that. Like the fact that they have a station wagon to me, so it's like, it feels really wrong, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Mercedes, even though, Mercedes has sedans and cars that, regular people drive, as well as, super fancy cars and the AMGs. Renault I don't think if we were doing like word association, you'd be like, Renault, ooh, really fast car, right? Or something like that. I just don't, I don't see where that is coming from. So I could see that maybe this is some way for Renault to kind of try to up their brand to be, a performance vehicle or more of a sports vehicle than, just a little Clio that you beep, beep, drive around town or whatever.
Right.
And, kind of ups their, as opposed to, Merc or Ferrari that already have that in their portfolio.
Right. No, I totally agree. Because like I said, we don't get Renault over here. And so it's a little difficult to know. But you're right. You think of the Clio and I was watching a show the other day, and this guy's driving a Renault, and you could see the badge on the steering wheel, but he was turning right and left, and the center of the steering wheel didn't turn. What? So the wheel turns, but the center of the steering wheel stays the same.
Okay, so unless you're Rolls-Royce, who does that with their wheels, right?
Right.
What is it? The Triumph, Victory. I don't know, that woman has a name. Spirit of Victory, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's weighted, right?
Yeah.
Or if
So
it's
it
the
always stays
RRs,
there.
right? So that it always stays upright. So yeah, unless you're driving a Rolls Royce, maybe the center, maybe it should all turn. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. So no, he was turning the steering wheel and the center of it stayed the same. And I thought, oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
always get to the
okay.
buttons in mid-turn. I can get to the volume. I know where the volume
You're
is.
right. You're right. That's. I had not thought of that. There
I
you
don't
go.
know. You shouldn't be adjusting volume mid-turn. Paul will tell you that. You don't adjust
Um,
volume at the apex. Come on.
no, only when going straight.
Right. So anyway, yeah, I found that interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if Mercedes, obviously, I can't imagine them changing anything on their color scheme or
No.
anything. They're the silver arrows, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. But kind of interesting to see the AMG being more forward in their branding efforts, Alpine being more forward in their branding efforts, Ferrari still there, Aston Martin being more forward. So yeah, should be good fun. We'll see. Let's see. Oh, hey, next year. Speaking of next year,
It seems so far away, and yet I know it's not. It's still feels like March day 364. So
it does seem so far away, doesn't it?
it'll be Zoom time before I know it.
Zoom. Oh boy. So this just in. So planning for 2021, what in the wide world of sports is going on for 2021? Well, I'll tell you, Grace, I happen to have a quote from your friend and mine, Chase Carey.
Oh.
Chase and I were like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Super
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I had to, dial it back on my mustache a little bit. I didn't want, I didn't want to hog the glory there.
I think you're closer friends with Christian Horner than Chase Carey.
So yeah, Christian Horner are buddies, man. I'm going to tell you, I know he yelled at me because I wished him a happy birthday a day early, but I'm telling you, Christian and I would be buddies.
There you go.
We'd just sit down, crack a nice Red Bull, and I'd say, I've bought enough of these to pay your damned salary. So
That's
you
right.
show me the damned respect I deserve. Damn it.
And have you ever sent me any free product? No.
No, you've never sent me any free Red Bull. If I was you, I would be sending me crates full of Red Bull as much as I promote.
And all the weird flavors they have now.
No, just the regular.
Just regular?
Not in the weird. Yeah, I'm not in the weird.
I don't know. Don't they have Red Bull, first of all, Red Bull already has like a flavor that is only Red Bull. Totally. It's kind of like red Gatorade, right? Like, I don't know. Nothing else tastes like that. It's red Gatorade. Red Bull has a flavor. So I think it's weird that they have other flavors.
It is weird. So
it has a flavor.
Because I've been a Red Bull fan for a long time. And I like Red Bull. All right. And I know lots of people don't. And fair enough. It tastes like liquid Smarties to me, but fair enough. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm fine with Red Bull.
Okay. So a lot of people say, well, you ought to try Monster, right?
Okay.
But when I do the regular black can green Monster, it's way too sweet. Way too sweet, right? So any of you Monster drinkers out there, tell me which of the Monsters is the closest to a Red Bull. Now, I don't know. And I'm not going to go buying every single damn Monster to figure out which one's like a Red Bull. Or is there a Rockstar that's another brand out there that's like a Red Bull? Because I know there's not a Rich Energy.
Nope.
Can't go down that road.
No, and Husky chocolate is apparently just chocolate.
Yeah, apparently.
It's like hot chocolate. It's not I just assumed it was some sort of weird chocolate flavored energy drink.
You thought it was some sort of esoteric chocolatier in Monaco, but no.
Right. No, it's literally just some esoteric hot chocolate.
Might as be Nestle's pink. What was the pink that you put in milk?
Yeah, right. They came in the can. They had to get the lid off of.
Yeah, you had to pop the lid off, and
I
know
what you're talking about, the powder stuff.
Yeah, the powder. The strawberry one was good too.
Yeah, I don't know. I've only ever had Red Bull, because the other thing too is like Monster, like Red Bull is like a can, right? Monster's like a can. I'm like, I can't. That's too much.
Well, I've been known to drink the large Red Bulls too.
Oh my God, I feel like I'll never sleep. Like a Red Bull, I already feel like I'm never sleeping again.
Right.
Although we did once, some friends of mine, because remember Four Loko before that was banned?
Yeah.
So we thought, well, we'll just try it. Oh my God, that stuff should be banned. And now, because you are both so awake and so tired at the same time. And that's a dangerous idea. Now, granted, we're also like adults and like 20 or something, but we just like, what the hell? We'll just go over to, Sam's house today and we'll try it, right? Like, and yeah, that stuff that should be banned. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Well, so any of you listeners out there, hit me with your Red Bull alternatives.
They have a million
taste
flavors,
like
though.
Red Bull. I know. I don't want a bunch of, try this. This is tangerine. No. I want it to taste like Red Bull, but not Red Bull.
Nothing tastes like that. Just Red Bull.
Well, here's the reason I asked, Grace. Definitively, I'm going to show Christian Horner just the impact that I have on his operation. If I come up with a viable alternative and stop buying Red Bull, he'll know. He'll feel the pain. He's going to say, damn it, I should have been nice to Todd. I shouldn't have pissed him off like that. I should have comped him Red Bull.
The one-man sink in the Red Bull market.
I know. He's going to say, Max, I'm sorry. We got to let you go, buddy. We're out of money.
Too much.
We let you go. Yeah, it's not in the budget anymore.
Call Gasly up. You're out.
Yeah, you're out.
We knew it would be somebody.
Yeah, it had to be somebody. We just weren't banking on Todd stopping buying Red Bull.
Oh, that's right. But yeah.
So, all right. So back to my pal, Chase Carey.
Oh, right. What were we talking about again? Yeah.
What the hell? I don't know. Yeah, I know what everybody's.
You know what? Since you played the soundboard, I do think we need to get the Kimi Räikkönen for what on your soundboard.
Oh yeah.
You have a penalty for what?
For what? I know. I keep thinking there's so many great Kimi sound clips that I need to get on here. I'm woefully behind on my.
But there has to be so many uses in the course of a podcast for somebody exclaiming for what.
I know.
That would be.
Because there for a while, my favorite, he was like,
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live, man. This is how we roll.
That's right.
So anyway, here is what Chase Carey had to say about the 2021 schedule and plan. Yes. So for those of you out there that are eagerly awaiting the 2021 season, here is where they are with planning so far. Quote, we're going to plan for a 2021 calendar that, again, looks pretty much like a normal calendar, like the calendar we would have planned in January. We're planning for events. We're planning to have fans. We're planning to have a season that I don't know if I'd say is normal, but certainly gets us back to normal, closer to normal on that track.
Okay.
He said, but we are a global sport. Okay. The reality was that this year, that we haven't really raced globally. We've largely raced in the European zone. That's true.
Right.
He said, we want to get back to making sure we have our races in the Americas. Well, that's awful kind of him. And
that is the one place I'd just put like a big question mark.
Yeah.
We're going to have pretty close to normal schedule, except for Austin.
Yeah, right. So I don't even know if Austin's going to re-sign. I don't know. Did they? I don't even know.
Who knows, right? But I don't know. That would require our COVID numbers to not to be skyrocketing at any given moment. And it doesn't seem likely. So.
Well, we'll see.
I'd question mark that Austin if I was you, Chase Carey.
I don't know. I think Bobby Epstein's working on a vaccine, Grace. Don't underestimate him.
There you go. All right.
He's got that state Texas fund, you can come up with a vaccine. I'm sure it'll have to do with some mezcal and maybe some barbecue sauce.
That'd be fine. That sounds nice. That sounds nice.
Just mainline that mezcal. You'd be good.
Yeah.
He said that when we get back to the Americas, we have our races in Asia. We have our races spread across the globe. That is important to us as a global sport. Yes, sure. I would imagine it would be. Certainly, historic European tracks are an important part of the sport. Well, yes. But I think you'll see a more balanced set of events across the globe on the 2021 calendar, end quote.
Okay.
Now, Grace, he said a lot of crap there. Grace, unpack it for us.
Hey, yeah, right. So first of all, of course, the schedule in January will have all of the races on it. They did this year too, right? And so, I mean, it's on paper versus what happens in actuality. It's still an unknown, and it's going to be an unknown for some while now, right? This isn't something that is, COVID-19 isn't just going to go away, right? And so I think that we're going to have this not like it was, period, for a while here, before we
I
get
don't
back
know.
to
I
like it
think once we
was.
get the Epstein cocktail, I think we're good.
All right. I mean, that's the best option. That's the best option. A little barbecue sauce, and I think we'll
Yeah.
be good. But I just, so, right, and they know that. But, right, Chase Carey also isn't going to come out and go, well, we're kind of a little lukewarm about what tracks we're going to go to this season. Maybe we'll do. So
Right.
he has to come out and say, we're doing 2021. We're going to do the same calendar we would always would have done this year, full on. We're going to have
Right.
fans. We're going to do everything. We're going to get as close to what we used to do before, right? As close to normal as we can. that's our plan. Of course, that's your plan in January. And of course, that's what you're going to put out to the fans and to the sponsors and to the tracks and all these other things. And, but they know that we won't know. We won't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to cover all the bases. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people will come back and go,
What are you, a wizard, a genius? Why didn't
Right.
you tell me that before?
right?
Right. So, but he's going to put the news we want to hear. That's what he's going to put out. That's his job.
It is his job
And it'll
before he
be
leaves.
It'll be somebody else's job, Stefano, not
That's right.
Stefano,
We're looking
whatever.
Stefano.
It won't be my job. So
No. I didn't get corrected on the last podcast where I call him Stefano, and nobody said, no, it's Stefano. Stop that.
okay, so
Quit being
I'm just
so
going to put this
American.
out there because I'm sure of the other people that watch this, somebody else has to watch Days of Our Lives, and so that's just so Stefano was
Are
always
the days
like.
of our lives.
You're right, but
Yeah.
he's like the perennial bad guy that keeps getting keeps coming back, and his family has
Stefano.
I think the actual actor has since passed, but the Demira family is like the evil people on Days of Our Lives. So I just think the idea of a Stefano in Formula One, and especially somebody who seems like a kind of nice guy, is kind of funny to
Right.
me. But
Like
don't know.
Charles leads through an hourglass. These
that's
are the days of the Paul.
right. So so even all the more if I was Chase Carey, I'd be like, we're doing this and we're
Yeah.
doing this, and
Doing
you
this.
get a race, you get a race, you get a race, right? Like
Everybody
he's
gets a
out.
race.
Right. It's totally normal. We're going to be as close to normal as possible. Don't worry about it. Sign
Right.
up Austin. We're good.
Yeah. Right.
You don't have
Right.
to deal with it.
And everybody now email in, win a chance to play backgammon with Stefano. Just
Right.
set the table, man, and then let Stefano figure out.
Exactly.
what
I
he's gonna
think,
do.
but I mean, it is a whole lot of nothing because there isn't really anything he can say. They just have to move forward with planning 2021 with like 8 different scenarios. It's like Ferrari, right? Like, well, which scenario do you want? A, B, C? I don't know which one. You're supposed to tell me, right? D, that's the one where we go straight to the airport, right? Like, I just think they have all these different plans and contingencies, and they know that, but they have to put out there that we're going to do 2021 normal.
Can we just get away? What do you think, as Americans? Could we just get away with calling him Steve? Old Steve Domenicali, that guy, he's going places, man.
Especially because Hobbs always did that, right? He'd always call Fernando Fred, and
Fred.
he always kind of like shortened and Americanized their names. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve. So Steve.
I like it. Steve Domenicali.
Well, see, then you'd have to put that on your board. Did you ever see Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs? The kids movie? I mean, it was a book
a long
when
time
I was a
ago.
kid.
Yeah.
But anyway, the monkey always goes, Steve! And he says his name. You'd have to get that on the soundboard every time we talked about
There
it.
you
So
go.
you go,
Steve.
Steve!
Yes. There you go. Steve Domenicali. I like it.
Right.
I have this for Frank. I just need the other one with Steve.
Right. Steve.
And I almost put on for Lawrence, swiper, no swiping. Almost.
Almost.
Didn't want to get controversial or anything there.
Oh.
So anyway, the truncated Eurocentric season in 2020 has revealed a few things to me, though, Grace.
Yeah.
Chief among them, do you like how I did that? Chief among them is that some of the stand-in circuits are a lot better
Have been
than the
great.
circuits that are currently on the official calendar.
Right. Let's stop going to all those stupid tracks that Bernie made us go to, and let's go back to the tracks that we all want to go to. Yes.
Right. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, number one. The tracks like the Ring and even Mugello were good reminders of how the older tracks with elevation changes, off-camber corners, and other natural layouts are better visually and technically than many of the flat, uninspiring circuits of today. So I would just ask Steve. I would say, Steve, while you're looking at the calendar for 2021, buddy, pal,
Right.
consider this. That whole Eurocentric thing we did in 2020
That's
wasn't such a bad deal because the tracks were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I even liked Magello, that whole kind of twisty.
Yeah, I liked Magello.
It was kind of fun. Yeah. So let me just throw it out there. Steve, have a look at that.
Yeah. I think everybody agrees. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to get rid of,
20%.
even though we went to Sochi anyway, but
You'd like to get rid of the Toka tracks, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, of course. So I think that, or yeah, I mean, you just want tracks with character, natural character, not like fake forced character.
Agreed.
Although I would also like to go to the track we didn't go to for the Dutch GP, because now I've played that on, my little toe that I dug into like some sim racing. That track's pretty awesome. So it's going to be pretty great.
There you go.
It was pretty fun. My virtual racing experience was pretty fun.
And you're totally kicking it for Vietnam.
Yeah, that one I was not as interested in. But
okay. All right. Well, speaking of tracks, Grace, I did want to tell you that one of my all-time favorite tracks, first of all, because the Belgians built it, and they built the best racetrack in the world, is Spa-Francorchamps, right?
You just like it for the weather.
Well, sure, I do. Did you know that sometimes your cat is attacking you?
I know. She does that during conference calls too. It's great.
Well, at least it's that, and you aren't going full tubing on us, okay? Because that's not good on a Zoom call.
No.
I'm just gonna tell you. I just found out about that. I said, he did what? Okay, so no, that's not good. So anyway, I was thinking about Spa here. Did you know that sometimes it can be raining on one part of a Belgium and not the other? That's just the way it is in Belgium.
The Ardennes Forest.
Yeah, exactly. West Flanders in particular. So anyway, so they're getting an 80 million euro upgrade with gravel. Now, here's the thing. In an effort to become more MotoGP friendly, Spa-Francorchamps will seek an FIM Grade C license by redesigning 5, count them, corners and their runoff areas. Corners are staying the same. It's just the runoff areas. Okay, so the 5 corners are La Source, Radiant, Blanchimont, Lacombe, and Stavelot. And Radiant will be expanded as it was, tragically, you recall, that was the site of Antoine Hubert's fatal accident. And so there's going to be a new runoff area there, and that's expanded. And the new runoff areas are all part of a 10-year, 80 million euro in old money, that's 72.7 million pounds, renovation project, which will also tackle the historic circuit's aging spectator facilities. The new grandstands and VIP boxes, including a brand new viewing area alongside Radiant, are set to add 13,000 seats, doubling the circuit's permanent seating capacity. The project is financed by 21 million euros of the circuit's own funds, a 29.5 million bank loan, and a 29.5 million investment by Sogepa, the Walloon government. I'm going to butcher that. I don't speak that, but the Walloon government's investment.
That's your quote of the day. I don't speak that.
I don't speak that. I don't know what that is. I don't know. It's not Americanese. I don't speak it. Walloon government's investment company, which also helps fund the Belgium Formula 1 Grand Prix. So that, I think, is very interesting with all that expanded seating and hospitality boxes. I am expecting my good buddy Koen Werbrick to go ahead and buy some seats for me, have those warmed up for me so I can go over there and join him. Koen is a delightful guy and wonderful Belgium and super smart guy, and he loves racing. So there you go. So there you go, Koen. If you're listening, there you go. Now you can get that hospitality suite for us.
That's right. Don't forget Todd's friends.
And don't forget, Grace and Paul too, right?
I'm in.
So yes. And you may have to, maybe you could get Wilder and he could put some money into that too.
Sure.
So anyway, before you get all giddy about this notion though, all those runoff areas, here's the thing. Should they all be gravel again? The FIA race director, Michael Massey, said, I've said before, corner by corner, circuit by circuit, and if it works in a particular circumstance, absolutely. If it doesn't work, then we need to look at the whole picture of how it works, and the FIA, working together with the FIM, form that perspective. There's a number of inputs. We'll continue to look at it on a circuit by circuit perspective, corner by corner basis to try and make the best judgments. And I'm wondering why, if you're new to F1, you may not recall the knock-on effect that the gravel runoff areas had in corners. And I may be, and for you veterans out there, I may be only remembering a part of the argument against gravel. If I'm missing something, let me know. But I recall, Grace, us getting away from those gravel traps because the tires were digging into the gravel at high speed and flipping the cars, which automatically made this a horrendously more serious accident than it would if you just skidded on tarmac until you slowed down and scrubbed speed off. So there was a lot of, they were bottoming them out, they were flipping the cars and those kind of things. I have to think that this is what Michael Massey is talking about. It's got to do with the amount of speed in those runoff areas and how much speed is taken into the gravel trap as to whether that would be allowable for a Formula One car versus a bike. So but I'm not misremembering that.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, I don't know if anybody ever, this guy Chain Bear does some really great videos that he did one on why gravel's a problem, and it's a nice visual, graphic representation of like your tires spinning and all these issues. So which he does always a really nice job of. So shout out to Chain Bear. Even though I still think he's beating us in our league, so great. That
guy. He's a man not to be trifled with.
That's right. But anyway, his videos are really good. So, but yeah, it's tricky for the cars. But if it gets MotoGP at Spa, I might be okay with that.
I bet you would.
That would be great. I'm ready for that. That would be so cool. Maybe they just need to do like they do in arenas where you can like switch between ice and like hardwood, right? So we just need some technology so that we can have, hockey games and basketball games a day apart from each other. So
there you go.
Somebody figure that out, and that way that we can have both gravel and a tarmac, and everybody can race at Spa because that's the dream.
Yeah, they can put this whole big mural on the front straight for the opening ceremonies, and by the time the race starts, it's all gone. So there you go.
So somebody can figure this out. But I think
speaking of, we were talking about innovation. Certainly someone can come up with that, because as we said before we started recording, I just saw that there was a dog toy that's a squeaky toy that squeaks so out of the frequency that humans can't hear it, but dogs can, and they go nuts for it. I was thinking, that's genius. We've known dogs could hear better than humans forever. Why didn't
Where's that been my whole life, right?
Right. It's crazy.
Nothing is more annoying than the dog, right again, the wee hours of the morning. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Oh my God, right?
I know. Yeah, having the squeaky toy we can't hear, it's genius, right?
It's genius. That person should get the Nobel Prize.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That itself is such a, that right there will propel humanity into a new positive direction.
Yeah, because I think whoever he beats out would be like, no, you should have this. No, this is yours.
This is yours. Yeah, wait, thanks. Yeah.
You're actually, yes, I invented, a cure for cancer, but a squeaky toy I can't hear, that benefits way more people. So please.
Sorry, Bobby. The vaccine for COVID is nice, but the squeaky toy no one can hear.
That's right. Everybody needs that. So I just think, I don't know. I love the idea that the FIM is looking at getting in a Spa. I really stop listening after that. Like whatever, Formula One, figure it out. Nobody cares.
Figure it out. Yeah, right.
I think I just really want to see MotoGP at Spa would be That would be super.
That would be good. Hey, the last thing I want to talk about this whole concept of F1's 2-day. You remember the Eiffel Grand Prix was a washout on Friday, and that left the teams just a single practice session to sort out their car and then go racing on Saturday.
Right.
So they had one session on Saturday morning, and then they had to qualify, and then they went racing. Many have suggested that that compressed weekend format is exactly what F1 needs, and drivers have all weighed in. And keep in mind that this Portuguese race was purposely set up as a 2-day weekend to test this. But as it turns out, the last race, because of all the rain and fog, it was a 2-day event as well. So we've had two 2-day events. We will have had two 2-day events back to back. All the drivers are weighed in on this matter. Bodo said, honestly, I think currently in a normal weekend, I feel like there's too much practice. Everyone finds their way in setups and the optimal things in terms of driving and the car setup. But if there would be a bit less practice, maybe some teams get it right and some drivers can get it right and some don't. Lewis Hamilton said, there's 22 days less of 20 cars bombing around the track and polluting the air and the planet. So that's a positive. I think it just made it so much harder for us. Normally you have 2 sessions on Friday. You get the time to make up tons of different setup changes. And if you're on your back foot, you've got time to catch up. I understand what he's saying. I'm not sure if he feels that way about Formula One. I'm not sure why he does Formula One, but I don't know. If that's really off his moral compass about polluting air and the planet, maybe he shouldn't do it. I don't know.
I think it's the way you read it. I think if you read it like, well, that's 22 days less of, pollution. Well, I guess that's a plus, but it is helpful.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it's just the way I'm reading it. Maybe it's lost in translation on print versus how he actually said it.
Right. I mean,
it comes across as a guy making $40 million a year on a series, and he's saying, "Gosh, we shouldn't be racing."
But I think the thing is that you can try to make things better, right? So he can be in a sport that pollutes and try to make it pollute less. It's not one or the other. It doesn't have to be I'm only in things that don't pollute. I think his message is if we could do better, we should be doing better, not we shouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I would imagine he could say, that's why we're doing hybrid instead of, normal ice or whatever he's doing. But I just know in his personal life, banning all the plastic, he's very, very,
because we could be doing better, right? Like we could be doing better. So I think,
but he could be doing better by driving Formula E.
He could, but he's not going to do that. He's trying to make Formula One better.
But it takes, he's got a lot of work to do, man. He's not an engineer.
Not the way the manufacturers are going. In 5 years, it'll all be electric anyway, or hydrogen. So.
Oh, did you say electric? Yes. So, or alternate fuels, synthetic fuels, and all that good stuff, right? So
there you go.
See.
So I just think
but I understand what he's saying. He's saying, definitely on the 2-day thing. He understood. Kevin Magnus said top teams will probably have the car closer to the optimum than similar teams are likely to have.
I was just going to say, this is the different, of course, Mercedes is like, we don't need that day, whatever. We'd rather be playing golf or drinking tea or saving the dolphins or whatever.
Right.
Magnussen, however, probably has a different perspective.
Yeah, so he's saying, but, then there's the driver. I think you can make a difference. If you're good at adapting, then a couple could give you an advantage. All sorts of analysis arrives on Saturday morning or sometimes Friday evening for the big teams. You just get the info that we'll get as well, but we'll get it next week. So he's talking about the 2-day weekend at Portugal. So,
right.
So the reasons, and this was all in an article at Autosport, and the reasons given was that less days could equal more races, right? So if you only had 2 days instead of 3, that could actually equal more races, I would argue. And the article did a good job. It said, look, basically the point of no return is probably 25 races during a season. I'm just not sure how that math works out. Does the lost revenue of a lower price tag for sanctioning fees on a 2-day event versus a 3-day, does that cover the gap if you have 25 races, 3 more races to the calendar of a 22 race? I don't know how that math works out. I don't know.
Plus, what about all the other stuff? like any race weekend isn't just Formula One,
No,
right?
right.
So you have all the other support races that also run Friday, Saturday. I mean, because I think, I don't, I'm now just interrupting Autosport's points that you were making, but some of it is also because you want the fans to see it, right? These people
Yeah.
came, let's run the cars around on Friday, because that's when your best chance when you're at a track, your best chance of really like sitting in a corner or really spending some time looking and thinking and doing recon and that stuff happens on Friday. And
I
so
agree.
I think it's nice to have the cars race on Friday. I don't care as a fan if they don't get anything out of it. I think as a fan, you really get something out of it. And I don't know what happens to all those support races. Is it just not a 3-day event for Formula One, but it is for everything else? Because some like the support teams run Friday, Saturday. Saturday's their big race, right? That's what IndyCar does, because then IndyCar is the big race on Sunday. So you have Lights is the big race on Saturday, or ALMS is the big race on Saturday. So they have 3 full days of events. But will people come to those other events if you don't get to see Formula One cars? Probably not.
If there's no F1 cars, right.
So I think that there is more to it than just, do the manufacturers need it?
Well, and I wrote down a few things. I wrote an editorial about this, so you can read it. It's a lengthy editorial at the website about this, and I sort of unpacked this and shared my opinion on it. I raised things like, what about brand impression, sponsorship, and TV time?
Right.
This is where Williams and other teams that are traditionally towards the back get a lot more airtime. Sponsorships, hospitality events, bringing in corporate guests, bringing in all the other people on these Friday, having 3 days to wine and dine those people for the hospitality portion of this. What about the junior drivers? Without an FP1 and 2, there would be no room for anyone to get F1 seat time as a junior driver, right? So, while Mick Schumacher missed out because of the weather in the Eiffel Grand Prix, that wouldn't happen at all if there was no FP1, FP2, right? The promoters, anyone think that they'd be up for chopping a day's activities off their calendar?
Right. I guess that's, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they would. F1 seems to me to be the only series trying to run less instead of more. And I'm not quite sure. Less running over a weekend, less budgets, less innovation, less passing, less excitement, less power, less sound. At what point does all of this, quote, less begin to really capture the passion and attention of fans, right? And they're always arguing, well, look, hey, Gen Y, millennials, and Tom and I were talking about this in the comment section of my editorial, and he gets incensed because he's a millennial. He says, hey, I spend tons of time watching racing, and he does. And so I always find the argument, they don't have the attention spans of guppies, and we have to change F1 totally. And I'm just like, no, we just need to fix F1, and running less, to me, doesn't seem to be fixing it.
Because it's an easy scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
So people always go, oh, millennials. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, okay, boomer, right? It's totally just a scapegoat for somebody doing what they want to do anyway, right? So, because if you really look at people's activities, everybody does this shit that millennials are accused of, right? And sometimes it's an age difference versus a generational difference, but that's a different thing altogether. So I think that's just crap. They just want to do what they want, and they go, oh, well, that's what the 20-year-olds want. Millennials aren't 20 anymore, but, people just use that as their patsy for doing what they want. It's not really the truth.
I just don't see, to me, as I argued in the editorial, this to me is just another effort to cover up the glaring elephant in the room, which is the regulations, and producing racing that's not as exciting or competitive as it could be, right?
Yeah, or figuring out how.
Yeah.
I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. And to me, it seems like we're constantly trying to put lipstick on a pig here.
Yes.
And so this case is saying, oh, well, those young kids just don't have the attention span. They only like a one-day event, and they want on any race day, they want Williams to be able to win and Ferrari to be able to win. And so we got to do, it's kind of like, no.
I mean, that's not true in any sport.
No.
It's not true in any sport, right? Where you're just like, everybody is anybody has a chance to win.
No, it's not. It's not. And it's not like millennials or any other generation can't appreciate a dynasty or can't appreciate a
Sure.
team that dominates. And, come on, man. It just, gosh, I sound like Joe Biden there. Come on, man. So, to me, it just seems like this would be, to your point, it seems like an easy out. But F1 to me should be finding ways to run more, should be finding ways, because I don't know anyone, and maybe I'm just the odd duck, but people go and they say, oh, I love the concerts, I love the support races, I love that. And that's cool. That's totally great. And I'm all for it 100%. But to be honest with you, I'm absolutely there for F1. The concerts don't appeal to me. The other thing, you fire up an F1 car, I am absolutely, on point.
But I think the thing is too, is that if you go to a race, unless you live in one of those 20 to 25 cities, you're there for the whole weekend, right? Like you're not just coming in for Sunday, right? So I think there is something to be said to filling a whole weekend, right? Like when we go to Montreal, we go for like 5 days, right? Because you want a couple days before all the circus arrives to like actually do stuff and see things. Because once the circus arrives, you can't get anywhere or do anything. Right. So, I think that you have to fill that time. I just think, as you've listed here, there's just too many other reasons why this isn't a good idea, even if Mercedes thinks it's a good idea. But I think, to Magnuson's point, I don't know that the other teams could do it. I don't know that the smaller teams would be able to do that, and be even remotely successful, right? Like, but I do agree with you. I think that they need to get Steve, get Ross, get a whiteboard, and figure some shit out from the beginning. Like, what are you trying to do? I feel like they're always just trying to incrementally change things.
Yeah.
Instead of okay, our concern is the sport costs too much. How are we going to fix this? It always just seems like we do this little cut over here and this little cut over here, and it never solves anything. Figure out what you want. It's just like when people complain about, consistency is really what benefits you as a driver. Well, yes, but that's how the points are done, right? Like, you can change how the points are allocated, and that changes how much weight is put on if you win and lose and win and lose and win and lose, and you can win, or you have to be consistently winning to win. These are solvable problems. They just have to sit there and figure out what they want to do and do it. I just think now, I work on surveys for a living, and that's what happens, right? Somebody adds a question over here, and they add a question over here, and this question gets added here. And at some point, you have to redesign the survey and basically just start over again, because you have these 3 weird questions that don't make any sense with these 4 weird questions, because you just end up doing all these little incremental changes all along the way.
Right.
None of it makes sense anymore.
Right.
So I think that's where Formula One is. Figure out what you want to do and do it.
Yeah, I had a paragraph in my editorial that I said, F1 has to stop their pragmatic march towards banality by offering constructs to provide cover for their regulations that prevent unpredictable and exciting racing. The Eiffel Grand Prix did not produce a radically different result, despite it being a 2-day event. The 2-day format is being driven by the same logic that gave us HD tires based on one Canadian Grand Prix error,
Right.
And so these are those little incremental things you're talking about, where we're just, okay, well, that was let's try this. Let's compress the weekend and make people really scramble for a strategy or whatever.
Let's just try sprinklers or gold medals.
Gold medals or shortcuts or
Let's just whatever. Let's just ask random people what they want, and let's just implement those things. Why are we paying you guys so much money, right?
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
All right, let's give away some awards. First award of this podcast. So it's Post of the Week. All right, I'm giving it to our friend Fabio. He and Steve are good buddies. He was talking about the 2-day idea, and Fabio said, while initially there may be the odd race with an unexpected outcome, eventually teams with the bigger budget will overcome the lack of track time by spending more money on simulators and better software, and we'll end up exactly where we are now. Plus, your poor punter that goes to the track Are they going to reduce the cost of the tickets by a third? Somehow, I
No.
think so. And I think it's
No.
a great point, Fabio.
Exactly. So yeah, you'll still have, you know, Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull with the super cool, you know, simulators, and you'll still have Williams with the box that, you know, 4 engineers have to move like
Right.
this so that George Russell gets a sense of what the track is like, right?
Right.
I just think that's spot on. I did want to say before you moved on, since you
Yes.
mentioned Fabio, and that made me think again of MotoGP and Fabio Quartararo. But so this race this past Sunday, you know how they show like you know the what would be the tower, right? I don't know what you call it, but you know where everybody's standings are on the side.
Yeah.
And then they'll sometimes like bump out pictures. So like if the guy in the front is really far ahead, but you're really watching like guy 4, 5, and 6, they show you what was always Mark Marquez and whatever he's doing 8 hours in front of everybody else because you're actually watching this battle down here, so it's on TV. Well, they took those bump outs, and Alex Marquez, because Mark Marquez is still injured, so his younger brother was finished 3rd. And they put his dad in that little like bump out picture. So you could just watch his dad, which was all of us, right? Because we're all like, he almost, you know, made it to, you know, past Rins. I was like, that's right there. But he finished 2nd. And so it was just really great because he almost Rins. But it was just great that they used that to show, you know, his dad, who first of all, even with a mask, is clearly Mark Marquez's dad, right? Like just this part of him, definitely their dad, right? There's no denying that. But he was just so animated, and but you were sitting at home at the edge of your seat, and they just showed him in the bump out. So whoever decided that was a good use of that box was excellent.
That's awesome.
That's how we all watched that race. And I you know, right on MotoGP, all Formula One ever shows is like somebody's, you know, attractive woman who's just sitting there, right, minding her own business. Like at least this was a good use of that technology to show how excited his dad was. And of course, Alex was super excited, and I'm sure Mark was also super excited. So right on.
All right. Well, the next award is Grace's favorite because it's the Lewis Hamilton Fashion Award.
Lewis Hamilton, there's no stopping him.
It's in there, Lewis.
Lewis Hamilton, there's no stopping him.
It's in there, Lewis.
All right. It all started a day ago when Lewis Hamilton released this image, and I'm going to share my screen on the Zoom call so if you can go to YouTube and you can see this. But this, Grace, is the picture he shared.
Right.
That is Lewis in a very vibrant colored pair of shorts.
Right.
And that have the letters GG on them.
And I'm not fashionable enough to know whose brand that is.
No, I'm not either.
I have
but
no
there
idea.
he is. He's looking all ripped. He's got his tats going.
Yeah, right.
He's got those shorts on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like these really vibrant colors and these stars, and it's really, really nice.
Right.
And 24 hours later on the GQ channel, this image shows up. Here, then, is D-Rick, and I'm assuming you can see that, Grace.
I can see it.
You can see D-Rick in this same exact pattern, clothing, and everything, except it's what he calls his party shirt.
Yes.
Lewis is wearing the shorts. D-Rick has Lewis's top. His
Just
shirt.
the party top. Yes, that's right.
So there you go. D-Rick borrowing the shirt from Lewis because Lewis clearly doesn't have the shirt on because D-Rick has it.
So when Joel sent that as our fashion award, right? And I was like, I think I just saw Lewis wearing I mean, it's a very distinct pattern, right? That I was didn't I just see Lewis wearing that same pattern? Like, what are the chances, right? And I'm sure whatever fashion brand that is, they have more than one pattern, right?
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I mean,
so good.
it was just really funny to think that like they're sharing an outfit, or like Ricciardo was like, crap, you know, I got to do this GQ thing. What am I going to do?
What am I going to wear?
Lewis will have something I can wear. And he did, right? So I don't know.
It's almost like Lewis wear the shorts, no shirt. It's like, I sent Dan my shirt.
That's right.
I got the shorts.
So I will say, so the video was like his 10 favorite things, the 10 things he can't live without. Oh my goodness, Mikasa, come on, dude. It's because she's like, it's 10 o'clock. This isn't where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be now. Work
Right.
is over. You're supposed to be downstairs now. What are you doing? Anyway, so his second favorite thing is he has this like third generation iPod that still has the wheel. I
Yeah.
was so jealous.
That's
I so
awesome.
miss the click wheel on an old iPod, and I wish they made those. I don't know why they don't. I mean, you're already charging $1,000 for a new phone. Do something I actually want and bring back the old like original
Exactly.
generation click wheel that still had a drive in it. That would be great.
That's right.
But that was like his second thing that he can't live without is his old iPod.
D-Rick, he's like Baby Driver over there, man.
He is, and
Yeah.
and I love that he's like, I never plug it into a laptop. I just charge it. And I'm like, right, because God knows what would happen now if you plugged it in. I think it would just like get the little sad X's in its little square face, and that would be the end of it. But
Right. Oh, it's awesome. All right,
Good.
one final word. It is the Guntersteiner Bravado Award, of course. That's right. Oh, the Steiner. So I'm giving it to Ferrari's Laurent Mekies, who had this glowing review of Ferrari's performance that he's pretty excited about. Quote, hopefully we've hit rock bottom a few weeks ago. Did you ever think there would be a day when somebody who works for Ferrari would be quoted as saying, hopefully we've hit rock bottom a few weeks
quoted
ago.
is the key, right?
Quoted.
Like, I believe that
know.
people say that, but like
Oh.
out loud in the press.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay,
Oh, for Ferrari fans, that's a tough one.
hopefully.
I can't only
Hopefully.
quote have. He says, hopefully we've hit rock bottom a few weeks ago now. We're trying to reconstruct towards the resolution of our issue. It's a long path. I'm sure it will be up and down, but I think the team made the first step in the direction after Sochi. Hopefully the car had a bit more performance. So anyway, yeah, it's like, wow.
Hopefully we hit rock bottom.
Woo! You got to think things at Maranello are kind of like,
Why don't you put her in charge?
yeah, exactly.
Gosh, I just that is
It's sad. It's sad,
Gosh.
Grace. It's sad. There was a time when I used to make hay with,
Nice, Ron.
I used to give you all kinds of grief for years.
Ron deserved it.
Now
but
it's all come home to roost.
hopefully hit rock bottom.
We hopefully have hit
Hopefully.
rock bottom.
Hmm.
That's a
Cheating.
tough one.
That's
All
what
right,
happened.
folks, be sure to stop by the website, share your opinion at theparcferme.com. Let us know what you think of the 2-day format. Let us know if there is an alternate to Red Bull. And also share your opinion on, what else did I want your opinion on? The engine quandary, that's right. And, what Red Bull should do. So let us know about that. If you like the podcast, go over to iTunes, give us a good rating, show us a little love over there. A huge, huge thank you to our Patreon supporters out there. If you like this podcast, if you ever thought about supporting this podcast, now would be the great time to do so, because we wouldn't and could not do this podcast without you. And so we'd appreciate it. Be sure to get your picks in with the Kingsbridge BCP TPF Fantasy League over at fantasygp.com. And our man Skip Williams does a great job of keeping track of that. And he's pretty darned excited. And so he should be making gains. And I'm just clinging onto the top 10 barely. So, I'm losing steam here as the races go farther. So be sure to join us for that. You can hang out with us at the website. You can hang out with us our Facebook group, Facebook page. You can go to Grace RD1 on Twitter and hang out with Grace, or Negative Camber _ or the Parc Fermé on Twitter, and check us out over there. Until next week, when we come back to talk about the Portuguese Grand Prix, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you in 2 weeks.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game